Hi, my name is Victoria. I am a wife, a mom of 3, and a birth doula. I live in central Kentucky, which is where I run my doula practice, and I work every day in the world of birth. Even though these are very uncertain times, the arrival of a new baby is going to bring a lot of joy and a lot of hope, and we still want to preserve that as much as possible. I would say think of a doula as being part personal trainer, part wedding planner, and part soul sister for your birth. There's a stigma out there that doulas are kind of angry birth coaches who are forcing their own opinions on moms or who are telling moms exactly how their birth should go, and that is not the case. Doulas provide informational, emotional, and physical support in pregnancy as well as the birth of a baby. It's good to know there's also postpartum doulas, so I am a birth doula. That means I'm working with moms through pregnancy and birth. And then postpartum doulas, wonderful colleagues who come in during those newborn weeks and work with the family for the same end, working to make them strong, confident, capable in themselves. We really are there to respond to what is happening, what that mom needs, the options she might need to be made aware of, help her process decisions she is making, and then just to let that mom have the best experience possible. We are just supporting her. We are cheering in her corner. We are just working to optimize that birth as much as possible to make it happy, healthy, and safe for everyone, mom, baby, and dad included. Doulas can also help moms adjust when their plans change. Let's say, for example, a mom was planning a birth with minimal interventions. Maybe the birth goes on for a longer than expected time, 2 or 3 days even, and then the mom decides, hey, I actually want some interventions either to help labor speed along or some pharmacologic drug-related pain relief. Doulas can help even make those decisions empowering by listening to the mom, helping elevate her voice, and making sure that that mom knows she's a decision maker, that she really feels empowered. And then once decisions are made, we have lots of tools, tips, and tricks to really optimize those decisions and just make it as healthy an outcome as possible for everyone. A few examples of things a doula might do during a birth would be to provide physical comfort through massage, counter pressure. We can often facilitate position changes. So if the mom has been in one position for a long time, we're always looking, how can I help her move around? How can I help her optimize her movement so that the baby can rotate and come down smoother? Doulas also really love setting up labor environments. So whether that is like a shower or a tub, making the room nice, quiet, and dark and safe feeling. I know we kind of love doing things like that. At least I do personally. Doulas really do support the entire family unit, mom, dad, and baby. It's kind of a misnomer that doulas are going to replace your partner. This is a question I get a lot. Why should I have a doula if my partner's going to be there? The reason is because a doula can really enhance the partner's enjoyment, appreciation, and memory of the birth. Oftentimes, women in labor are going to have a lot of simultaneous needs. So it could be they need the emotional support of their partner right there at their face, holding their hand. And then maybe their back is really hurting and they just need someone to press on that. So having a doula, it is kind of like a tag team. I really like working with my dads and saying, okay, it looks like she needs this, I'll do this, you can do that. Sometimes dads just want to be all in. They're very hands-on, which is fabulous. So I can kind of give them some ideas of what to do. And again, if they're working well, I just leave them alone. I kind of sit there. I might refresh the room. I might provide water or food to mom or dad, whoever needs it. And that works really well. Sometimes dads don't want to really be involved at all. They could have some past trauma that makes birth really uneasy for them. They could just be not sure of themselves in that moment. They could have some real questions about being a parent and they just need time to sit and process. So I can help the dad in those cases by really being physically present for the mom so that the dad can kind of have his experience, mom can have hers, but all of the needs of the room are still being met. And I make it a point in my practice to focus on the dads, to really make sure they're doing well, that they're comfortable, and to incorporate them. We're a birth team, we're a whole unit working together, And I just think it's really beautiful when it works out that way, when everyone's in tandem, we all have the same goal. Those are my favorite births to look back and remember for sure. Doulas typically are going to begin meeting with their clients at whatever point in pregnancy they are hired. I have had moms hire me from when they peed on the stick. I've literally gotten a text message with a positive pregnancy test, saying, "Are you available in September? You're gonna be my doula." And then I've had some moms hire me at 38 weeks of pregnancy just because they had a lot going on. They weren't really sure if they wanted a doula. And then at the end, they decided, yes, we do. So in that sense, a doula, most doulas are gonna just begin meeting with moms whenever they're hired. I would say one exception would be community-based doulas, which are kind of like social workers and doulas together. So typically a community-based doula is going to be providing a lot more support, connecting to many more resources, not just pregnancy and birth related. And so that typically works more like a social worker caseload. You're gonna be with this mom the whole time, probably even through into the postpartum. So those touch points are gonna be more frequently. And you probably would be meeting with that person always very early in the pregnancy. The good thing to remember is that once you hire a doula, you have a doula. She is there for you. She'll likely have some sort of office hours or times you can expect a response, to your questions via text or email. But typically, I would say most doulas are really setting up their clients to be independent as possible, to have success. We really are working with our clients to make sure that they know the good questions to ask, that they are being heard, and to kind of send them off with a lot of confidence, instilling in them, like, you can do this. Here's some guiding points to maybe consider. Let's bounce off some ideas. But we really are wanting those clients to feel empowered in their own strength. So when you're looking to hire a doula, there are several questions you should be asking, and I'm just gonna read a few examples. You could ask the doula, how long have you been a doula? What made you decide to become a doula? What do you love about being a doula? That's a great question. I love answering. What positive piece of feedback regarding your work have you heard? Oftentimes doulas are getting testimonials from past clients. It's great to ask to read those testimonials, to kind of get a sense of what other people loved working with that doula. I really like having people ask this question: tell me about a time where you successfully navigated a tricky situation at birth. That can really help you understand the doula's problem-solving skills, how creative of a thinker they are, and just how they might support you in a similar tricky situation in your birth. I think it's wise to ask, what's included in your fee? Is there any special considerations I need to be aware of? Like if my birth goes long, some doulas have different scenarios. Some doulas might bring in a backup if a birth goes beyond a certain hours. Some doulas might have an hourly rate if it goes past a certain number of hours. It's good to ask those questions. Asking about backup doulas is very important to know. So if your doula is unavailable, they're sick, they had, an unexpected emergency come up, something like that. They're at another birth. That happens sometimes. Two clients can be in labor at the same time. So what happens if that's the case? Do you have a backup doula? And then I think a fun question is to ask, what is your favorite tool for birth? Doulas sometimes get really geeky and really excited about what they bring in their doula bag. So asking your doula that you're interviewing, what do you bring with you to birth? What do you love to use? I think those can be really telling questions. In our current situation, I believe doulas are immensely important, perhaps more important than ever. We know that the scene in hospitals is constantly changing. In some cases, doulas are not permitted at all into hospitals. In other cases, they are permitted, but with some restrictions. So whether or not a doula is there with you in person or virtually, they are going to provide that same support, emotional, physical, informational support that you're expecting. I would say the current situation we're facing has only exposed a lot of problematic holes within the healthcare system. We're seeing that we have nursing staff ratio issues. We're seeing that we have a lack of personal protective equipment. We're seeing that sometimes a big institutional system can get in the way of patient care, even though everyone is trying their best. doulas can really stand in the gap and help bridge the gap between those holes and then getting patients the care that they deserve. So I would say if there ever was a time for individualized, compassionate, attentive, with you the whole way through care, our current situation is it, and doulas are immensely valuable. They are going to provide so much to you and your birth. When I was supporting a client during our current situation, we had a lot of success of me conference calling into some of her prenatal appointments to discuss plans that needed to happen. So even if it's virtual, the presence of a doula is still very important to families, and I think it's wonderful when institutions also recognize the value of the doula to the family that hired them. In our current situation, doulas are sometimes allowed in delivery rooms and sometimes not. That is going to vary widely based on location, based on facility, and based on what the current health situation conditions look like in that area. I would say in the most extreme cases, we even hear of partners being not allowed on labor and delivery floors, or as testing becomes increased, in some cases, if a mother were to test positive, there could be more increased visitor restrictions on that mom. And then in more relaxed places, doulas are welcome along with partners. Most hospitals these days are going to have stricter visitor policies than we've seen before. But in the most relaxed settings, I would say a doula is permitted back with the partner. However, because there is just such a wide variance of what may happen, it is very important if you're pregnant to talk with your care provider now in pregnancy about what the conditions are at your hospital. It's important to talk about testing. If testing is available at your location, you should discuss what happens if I test positive, what happens if I test negative, what happens if I decline a test. And it could be that the answers to those questions are satisfactory to you and are what you want to do. And it could be that those answers are not really sitting with you well, and then perhaps you can look around in your area to see what other birthing options there might be. You might be hearing that doulas are offering virtual support in locations where they're not currently permitted to be in person. And you might wonder, is this still beneficial for me to have a virtual doula? I would say yes, absolutely so. Though there is a challenge of not being physically present, the wisdom, the experience, the comfort that a doula can bring to your birth still exist, even if virtually. Doulas are, I think, by nature and calling, a really creative and a really passionate bunch. And so I'm actually really encouraged by a lot of the thought leadership that I'm seeing in this area. I can promise you that doulas around the country are working really hard to come up with creative solutions to still be intentionally engaged with their clients. And again, I think it's important during our current situation to remember that a lot of the benefit of the doula is in pregnancy. I would say 50% of my work happens in pregnancy when I am meeting with clients. Of course, we would be meeting virtually during the current situation. But when I'm meeting with them, talking through fears, making plans, sometimes we even role play what might happen and how clients would respond. I think that prep is invaluable in this current crisis. I'm very happy to say in my practice, I have both hospital and home birth experience. When somebody is thinking about a home birth, I would say it's very important for them to ask several questions of their provider. So questions like, do you have a birth assistant? What all does your package entail? Are you certified in your state? This is a tricky question because some states do license home birth midwives and some do not. So if you're in a state that doesn't license a home birth midwife, you might want to ask the midwife, how do you hold yourself accountable? You know, what governing body locally do you account to? Do you help, with hard decisions? And then of course there is a national registry of home birth midwives that also provide oversight. It's important to make sure that if you're wanting a home birth, which a lot of people are in the current situation, that you are confident in your choice of provider, that they come highly recommended. I love just making sure that people are above board in all of their practices. So asking some questions like, how do you handle different situations? Again, who are you accountable to? How do you do your own professional development? Do you have an assistant? Do you work in conjunction with a doctor closely for transfers. Every home birth is going to have a transfer to hospital plan. It's good to know how friendly or not hospitals around you might be to transfers. And to that point, people often wonder, do I need to ask my doctor if I can have a home birth? This is really a tricky question, because you would not go to a big box store, for example, and say, should I buy a gift for my niece here or at a small business around the corner? Right? So in some ways, it really is like apple and oranges. Do you want the small business or the big box store? In an ideal world, those two are going to work together. In some places, those relationships might be more hostile. It might take more work from you as the patient advocating for yourself if you're going to choose one or the other. So I think, best practice for home birth is to have a positive relationship with a transfer hospital, that you feel safe at home and also safe knowing if you need to transfer into a hospital. What you really should be asking is, if I take in information myself as a patient, what decision is best for our family? And then whatever decision we make, how do we do this as safely, as excellently, and with as many backup plans as possible? I believe the difference is, at a home birth, you might have some of that work done for you. And what I mean by that is that often I find myself in a hospital setting. I am really trying to tone it down. I'm trying to make the hospital feel as not hospital-y as possible, because we know biologically women are going to labor better when they feel comfortable, calm, safe, and in like a closed environment, kind of like your bedroom after a long day. So I am always working in a hospital to make that hospital room feel as comfortable as your bedroom. But of course, that only will always go so far, because hospitals are hospitals. And so it's not your own environment, and you do have to do a lot of work, I find, to really mentally get into the zone yourself as a mom. And then as a doula, just helping to make sure everything is flowing as smoothly as it can. At the same time, I think in a home birth, I am often spending a little bit more time on the physical side of labor support, because that there are not a lot of those mainstream ways like epidural drugs of managing labor discomfort. I found myself at a home birth trying to be even more creative, even more physical with the support, and with kind of looking at the room and thinking, how can we make this most comfortable for her? But at the base level, the support is always the same. Laboring women are as unique as individuals are. Births will progress uniquely as well. So no two women have the same needs in labor or the same needs at the same time. And as a doula, I am just always responding to what's in front of me. I'm observing the birth, I'm taking it in, I'm being a presence there, but I'm also just looking at what is happening in front of me and how to make that as wonderful as possible for the family. So to moms who are expecting right now in these very uncertain times, our current situation does pose a lot of challenges for you, and my heart goes out to you. I know that you have so many questions. I know that your head is probably just spinning with what ifs, and you're looking around the world thinking, this is crazy and chaotic. I don't know if I want my baby to grow up in a world like this. But what I would say to you is that your baby is going to bring so much joy, so much light, and so much hope into the world, that the environment you're going to be able to give to your baby in your own home can be one of just comfort and love and bliss. You can do hard things. You can get support. It is not a weak thing at all to ask for support and help when you need it. And in doing that, you are gonna immediately from the start, you are gonna model to your baby self-care. You are going to model that we can do hard things. I think that your baby is needed now in the world more than ever. And I am so glad that you were pregnant. I am so glad that this little one is growing inside of you and is soon going to meet some amazing parents and grow up just to be an incredible human being that the world needs.